I didn't know the benefits of magnesium. So Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. And being in such a densely saturated solution of all that Epsom salt, you actually start to pull in the magnesium through your skin. That's the best way to take in extra magnesium is through the skin. It's our biggest organ. And when you're completely covered in that salt water, you start to pull it into your system. A lot of people are now becoming familiar with the benefits of magnesium. It helps with cortisol regulation. It helps with sleep. It helps with hair follicle stimulation, bone density. All of that stuff comes into play when you're in that much magnesium. And all the different walks of life of people coming in and seeing the benefits from it just astounded me.
That is Travis Richardson, the visionary behind Flow State Float House, a brand new business to flow into the Comox Valley, and is the first of its kind for this region of Vancouver Island. Not an easy feat to bring his dream to reality, as Travis will explain, and many others have tried. With safety regulations and sanitization policies related to water, Travis encountered some bureaucratic hurdles, but by leaning into his purpose and drawing upon the support of his strong network of a loving family and his business colleagues, he persevered, and we are so thankful he did, as you will learn. Throughout our discussion, Travis unravels the myriad of advantages of this therapeutic approach, including restricted environmental stimulation therapy, as well as the physical and mental wellness benefits of being bathed in Epsom salts. An advocate of community engagement, Travis extends his enthusiasm of finding the valley as the ideal location for his wellness practice, and his aspirations to impact the lives of many, including a region rich in serving and retired military members and first responders, and the incredible advantages float can do for traumatic brain injury, and those experiencing post-traumatic stress, menopausal women included, because if you heard in a previous episode with Chauncey King, midlife transition is in itself a form of trauma response. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of sensory deprivation and its profound impact on well-being with the insightful Travis Richardson. So stick around for the entire episode because Travis has a special offering. So let's dive in. Okay, I couldn't resist that one. Great to have you, Travis.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you're going to tell us how hanging out in water all day long is good for us. And I'm up for that.
It's a pretty incredible practice. I'm pretty specific when I say practice, just because with everything to do with wellness, it's something that you've got to keep up with. That's how we see the most benefits of it, and that's how we can really get better at it. I think that especially something as new and, well, not new necessarily, but as unknown as sensory deprivation, or I prefer the acronym REST, which stands for restricted environmental stimulation therapy. What that means is we're trying to put you in an environment where there is as little sensory input as possible. The way that we do that at Flow State is we have partnered with Ocean Float Rooms, which is one of the leaders in the industry for float rooms. And so what this is, it's a private room that you're getting into. It's designed for this specifically, and it is about 8 feet long, almost 5 feet wide, and 8 feet tall. So it's kind of like a little chamber that's big enough for you to stand up and walk around in. And it is filled with about 10 to 12 inches of highly saturated water. It's saturated with magnesium sulfate. So Epsom salt's just a basic Epsom salt, but we have about 11 to 1,300 pounds of the salt in that small amount of water. And it basically just allows you to float effortlessly. So I like to compare it to the Dead Sea. It's a little bit more buoyant than the Dead Sea and allows you to just, without worry, enjoy the float. These rooms have heaters in them, and they're climate controlled perfectly so that the entire environment is the same temperature as your skin. So the
Beautiful.
water, the air, all of it is climate controlled directly to your skin. And that's also kind of ties back into the practice side of it. We can everybody's a little bit different. So we can take notes and get that dialed in for each specific person so that each person can go in there and know that they're going to have that perfectly temperature regulated space for them. But what that does is it allows your brain to not have to worry about temperature regulation or any other sensory inputs. It's a soundproof, light-proof room where you can be in complete darkness, complete silence if you choose. We also have speakers for meditative music, or we've got a starlight ceiling in it. So you get to kind of choose your environment, but the highest benefit comes when we're taking away all those sensory stimulants that we're always dealing with on day to day. I mean, even just sitting here, I can feel my shirt on my back. I can feel the sweat pouring down the back a little bit, and all that stuff kind of takes away from our ability to really focus in on going inside. That's kind of how I connected with it. I started floating probably 13 years ago. I learned about it and was instantly completely mesmerized by the idea of getting into that silence. I've always been really drawn to myself. So, being able to kind of be away and be a little bit secluded and just think of my own thoughts has really drawn me to that environment. So being able to create an environment for people to get in there and really connect with themselves allows you to really do some deep reflection. So I was living in Calgary and searching for a float center to be able to go and try it. I hadn't even tried it, and I was already so interested in it. And finally, there was a float center that opened in Calgary. It was the first one in Calgary. And as soon as I heard that they were opening, I right away applied for a job and tried to get in there as much as I could. They hired me on, which was great. It was a great university job. It was probably the most relaxing job I've ever had. And then I was just interested in exploring, my own consciousness and exploring my own inner dialogue as to lose that. And then through working there, I was able to see just the array of people that were coming in and getting so many more benefits than just 90 minutes of silence or 60 minutes of silence. I didn't know the benefits of magnesium. So Epsom salts is magnesium sulfate, and being in such a densely saturated solution of all that Epsom salt, you actually start to pull in the magnesium through your skin. So that's the best way to take in extra magnesium is through the skin. It's our biggest organ. And when you're completely covered in that salt water, you start to pull it into your system. A lot of people are now becoming familiar with the benefits of magnesium. It helps with cortisol regulation. It helps with sleep. It helps with hair follicle stimulation, bone density. All of that stuff comes into play when you're in that much magnesium. And all the different walks of life of people coming in and seeing the benefits from it just astounded me. And then we went on 12 years, worked in a bunch of different jobs and kind of bounced around, always knowing that I wanted to be a business owner, but not really being able to find the thing that really pulled my heart into it, which is something that's really important to me. I think it's really important to all of us to be able to find something that we're really passionate about.
Absolutely.
And if we're lucky enough to be able to turn that into a job, then great. But then through the years and all the changing of life, my parents ended up moving to the Comox Valley, and I was instantly drawn to just the beauty and the community that was here. It's just such a great place to live. So I came down and visited every time I could. Every time I got off the ferry on the other side in Vancouver, it was just a deep pull to come back to the quiet again, the quiet of the valley. Last year, actually about exactly this time last year, on Thanksgiving weekend, I came out and visited my parents, and I was out here for 5 days and thought, it would be perfect if I could go have a float. And I realized that there wasn't one on the island except for in Victoria. And it just kind of that perfect synchronicity of the universe telling me that this is the time, I'm ready for it in my own life. And,
awesome.
and I think the community is ready for it. So We just kind of thought, oh, okay, let's give it a shot. Let's see what we can do. And we're still seeing what we can do. We just got the go ahead from the city that we can start to build. So we've got everything lined up for the build. I'm hoping that the build will take about 2 months and then we can open. So I'm hoping for a December, January open time to kind of give that little winter boost that people need through the gray winters of the Comox Valley.
Oh, so true. Listeners are going to hear this podcast and be lining up at your door. I mean, just what you've explained alone in this few short minutes about the benefits, particularly magnesium, which I knew was
Hmm.
very beneficial as a supplement, but the skin absorption, absolutely. And of course, the cortisol regulation, which is one of the issues that women in menopause go through. The hormone fluctuations alone cause stress in the body, but then all those added pressures, the environment by which we work in, we live in, all the added environmental pressures of life today just further exacerbates that cortisol level and keeps us in that sympathetic nervous drive. And
Exactly.
so,
And
yeah, yeah,
that's one of the big benefits of floating is that switch from the sympathetic response to the parasympathetic response. There was a shaman from Mexico that floated for one session a lot of years ago. There's a couple of really good books out on floating. I recommend highly the book of floating. If any of your listeners are interested in it, it'll absolutely be on the table of the float center when we open. And that Sean said that he, in all his years of meditation practice, the float tank was the best experience he had meditative wise because there is not that sensory input. Your brain doesn't really know what to do to itself. So it automatically just thinks, okay, I'm in a safe place. I can relax. And it takes you into those theta brainwaves, which is the deep sleep. I think I might be the only 32-year-old male with a internet search history full of menopause now, but one of the big things I've heard is the issues with sleep and being able to find that sleep. Not only is it a really big benefit for people who suffer from an insomnia anyways, it just kind of helps train your brain to get into that theta brain state, which is a precursor to the delta or the deep REM sleep brainwaves that you've got. So it kind of just trains your brain to go directly there when we're laying down. It's starting to get studied a lot more, which is really nice. I think that it's been an underutilized tool in the wellness realm, but there are doctors out there that compare 1 hour in the float tank to about 4 to 8 hours of deep REM sleep. So even if you're not falling asleep in the tank, your brain is in that sleep state and allows you to get a little bit of that extra boost that you're looking for when you can't get a good full night's sleep.
that's incredible. Yeah, we're gonna have to call you the menopause float guy. Gonna have to
I
be
love
your tag.
it. I've been called worse.
Yeah, you just have a few
It's
blog articles on that, and then we'll just get the metadata, search engine
exactly.
optimization, and
Yeah,
bam,
exactly. Yeah.
all your clients will be perimenopausal women.
It's the thing that I'm most interested in being able to be on the owner side of it as opposed to the employee side of it is I'll be able to get that data. What I really want is to be able to pull in as much data as possible from people who are finding the benefit from it. Because one of the goals in the industry is to use it on medical benefits so that it's covered, just like RMTs or acupuncturists are.
For
It's
sure.
I think it's a really important tool. I mean, not only for menopause, but generalized anxiety disorders, chronic pain, traumatic brain injuries, PTSD. And so I think being able to really tap into all of the community, like I said, the community here
Sure.
and get that
Yeah.
feedback, in partnership with the worldwide industry. That's the big push right now is to get it recognized in that sense, just to bring it to more people and give people the opportunity to really reconnect with themselves.
That's true. Yeah. So, how would it work if somebody experiments it for the first time in sort of an introductory, and then they would go on just like any other therapy program where they would take continuous visits, say what, once a month, once a week, a couple of times a week?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get in once a day, that would be that would be my
Seriously.
dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that you have to get into. It's hard to always. Everyone always says, "What should I expect when I go in there? What should I?" And my response to that is always just let go of all of the expectations. Just go in there and lay and enjoy it, or be weirded out by this weird sensation of floating in complete silence and darkness. But I really find that you start to kind of get the hang of it and be more comfortable with it after about 3 sessions. So on the business side of it, we offer an introductory 3-pack that you can get 3 floats and come in and try it. And then after that, we do like a membership base. So we have 2 options. We can do 60 minutes or 90 minutes. I find the 60-minute floats are really good for being able to get that magnesium to start coming into your system. After about 45 minutes, your body really starts to be able to suck it in. And then the 90 minutes for me is just a little bit more of that meditation side of it, where you can really connect and you start to be able to let go and be a little bit more comfortable with it. So the way that we do our memberships is we break it into those 60 and 90 minutes. So a 60-minute membership is $50 a month. And then each additional float after that is $40 per float. And so what that does is that kind of allows you to get in at least once a week. And then I've got it set up so that if you're floating more than once a week, your floats are going to be free after those first 4 floats. So your 5th float, if you can make it in more than once a week, great. I'd love to see the benefits, and I think that people will see the benefits and tell people. So mostly, I just want to be able to get as many people in as much as they can, which is why also we do kind of a bring a friend for members. So you get a reduced price for any friends that you bring in, and then if your friend signs up for a membership, we'll throw a free float on your account, and then with those packages as well, the big thing for me is being able to share it with people. I think that all of these wellness practices are best utilized when they're shared with the people that we are in life with. So if you have a 3-pack, a 5-pack, or a 10-pack, you can share it with your friends, you can share it with your coworkers, and kind of get everybody on this train and finding the benefits for themselves. Like I said, it's hard to explain the experience and the benefits with it if you're not in the float tank and seeing it for yourself. So lots of different options.
I'm just going to stay there for the next 10 years until menopause is over. And then
when I worked in the float center in Calgary, we had a lady come in who was having inflammation issues, and it was causing problems on her back, and they couldn't figure out what the root cause of the problem was. And she did a 8-hour float with us. So in the float, she listened to all of Beethoven's symphonies. So like 1 through 6 or 8 or however many he did. Yeah. And then the next day she went for an MRI, and it had reduced the inflammation so much that they were able to find the root source of the problem for her pain and fix it for her. So anecdotal evidence, amazing. But that was just one person that I was with, able to get just an unbelievable benefits.
Won't it be great when you can start benchmarking and you'll have that kind of data and those testimonials, so you can literally map them out, almost have like a chart. This is the state they were in before they came to see me. This is how they were, say, after 1 month, 2 months. Oh, this is going to be really good data to prove a case.
Yeah, especially as the Valley is a little bit of a hub for that. I mean, we've got the military base here. We've got all of these great societies and all these great wellness communities that are coming together that just give the benefits to a bigger reach on the island. And I think that being able to connect with those groups and connect with those communities is my biggest focus. I love floating for the benefits it gave me in terms of being able to reflect on myself and take my own time. But to me, the more importance is the real physical and mental benefits when it comes to anxiety, depression, all the TBI and PTSD, all that stuff. So being in that hub, I think, was really going to be interesting to a little petri dish of all these different things that we can tap into.
Exactly. We're a recreational dense community with a wellness rich offerings and mindset, and with a clientele, like you said, military veterans. Large percentage of veterans retire in this area. TBI, PTSD from first responders, vets. I have had a concussion and I've
Mm,
been diagnosed recently with PTSD.
mm,
And you exacerbate that on top with the menopausal transition, and you've got a whole host of issues going on from a cognitive capacity. And to be able to let go, just to trust and let go, will be incredible for a valley that's of clientele that are looking for something to add to that offering of their wellness. And this is so timely, so perfect. The region is just, as you said, it was very serendipitous. It worked out. And now and we've had this exchange before where other people have tried and haven't successfully been able to get the float check in the box. Tell us about that
yeah.
process. Was it a bit of arduous to get to that stage?
It has been. It continues to be just in the whole. If we look at the whole microcosm of the world now, the bureaucracy gets to be a little bit overwhelming, and you have to walk the fine line between. I want to make sure that everyone that comes in feels safe and feels like they don't have to worry about is the water being filtered. I definitely want to make sure that we're all up on that. I'm so grateful for the team that I have around me has just been instrumental in being able to help me get through all of these little stages. But I find the struggle with the bureaucracy gets to be a little bit daunting, and I think a big part of it too is just the lack of knowledge around what floating is. It's like, oh, are we floating down the puntledge or what is, I don't understand what this floating is. So I think where I was able to take that to the next level was because I am doing a dedicated float center. The only thing, there's definitely some things coming down the pipeline that I'd like to add in, but my main focus is on floating. And I think that also the years of knowledge that I have and that I've been put into this as a passion has really reflected and given me the ability to have a little bit of an expertise when it comes to what's needed and what goes into running a float center and what comes
Mhm.
into creating one. So I think that's been a really big benefit. And then on top of that, I will always fall back on the community. My family is a family of we're going to do it together. So everything that we've done in our lives has always been we're doing it together. So, that support system has been huge for me in picking me up when I can't necessarily pick myself up or when the red tape seems to be mummified around me. So that's been a big side of it, I think, is just the team that I've got.
That is absolutely so beautiful. And you surround yourself leaning into your family, your community to get
Mm.
through those hurdles because ultimately what you're providing is such a beautiful gift and it can take the fuel out of the fire, so to speak, and just make you want to give up on your purpose and on your
Hmm.
dreams because of those hurdles, like you said, the bureaucratic red tape, which understandably has to be there for regulations and safety, but that fear-based mindset when you go in with this concept that's been well researched and experienced worldwide, but there's that small mind, that fear-based mind.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I yeah, that
I
is
keep on telling everybody that I encounter through these bureaucratic processes. It's like, just let me open so that you can come in and float, and we'll get rid of all that. You'll be able
yeah.
to think a little bit clearer. And so
Hmm.
it's been a lot of hoops to jump through and a lot of trying new things. But that's what I was looking for when I wanted to start a business, was that a little bit more of that purpose driven life, to be able to bring the benefits to people, being able to tap into that and really reconnecting myself with the passion and why I'm doing it. A man can suffer anyhow if as long as he has a why. So I think having that why and really reconnecting to that has been big for me, which I do on a daily basis, just even with just mindful meditation,
Right.
taking the time to be quiet and sit with myself and really ask yourself, all right, Travis, the ego me has to be tamped down a little bit of, why is this taking so long for me? Why is this me? They're all against me. And it's like, no, this isn't about me. This is about what this means for the valley and what this means for the people in the valley.
Beautiful. I love that when you said reconnect with my why. It's in it,
Yeah.
start with your why.
Yes,
That is the
exactly.
foundation. If you could keep your eyes set on that and keep reminding yourself of your why, it helps those hurdles a little bit to be less
Yeah.
daunting as we try to jump, climb, crawl over them.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Yeah.
have you ever thought about being a coach? Because I just love your mindset and your enthusiasm and your drive, your tenacity. You would be a
I've
wonderful
I've been
coach, life
asked
coach.
before and about that before. I think I try to I try to keep my ego at bay as much as possible, and I think that part of that is just the humility of knowing that I definitely don't have it all figured out. I
Mm,
still have my days, and through this, as you know, the trying times come, I get beat down a little bit. And I still have
absolutely.
those days where I feel like I can't, or what's the point? But then, yeah, take that time to reconnect with the why and give the ego a little pat and tell it that it needs to
Mm,
take a little break and that there's bigger things at play here than some red tape. I think
yeah,
that understanding that in the totality of what we're here for, I believe that we all have a purpose and that we all have, you know, our own individual struggles that we're put here to try and overcome.
so
And I
true.
think that it takes it back to the whole side of floating as well as it's all holistic. Everything is holistic.
Yeah.
Even preparing for your float, there are things that you have to take into consideration of eating a little bit so that your belly's not grumbling while you're in the tank and distracting you, or not drinking coffee before you get in because
Oh,
then you're all, yeah, that's a big one. No
oh,
coffee
I'm
and no
glad you.
shaving. Those are the two big ones.
Oh,
So being able to just look at it holistically and bring everything in your life to back to a singular purpose and a singular drive, whatever that is, whether it's a float center or a menopause coach, I think it's important to address the totality of our human experience. So to answer the question, I'd love to be a coach, but I still have a little bit more to learn with the community I've been introduced to in the Valley. I think that I
hmm,
still have a lot to learn.
for sure. So you've got a client, let's say, and she's experiencing hot flashes, and so she wants to float. She says, I'm so hot, I'm sweaty. Is it safe for me? Is it safe for them if they feel that little rise in their body temperature?
Absolutely. And the thing that I love most about the float is you're free. In our center, you have your own private suite. It has a shower, it has,
Oh, wow.
towels, it has a space for you to sit and kind of relax in your own little locked private suite. So anytime you feel during the float, if anything is feeling a little bit off, hop out, rinse off in the shower, take a breather, have a sip of water, and then go right back into the float if you're comfortable. But a nice thing about the tank itself is it's 10 to 12 inches of water. So it's only a little bit of water, even just to sit up at sometimes during the float is nice. So choose your own adventure in there where you can, if you're feeling a little bit like you don't want to be in it anymore, just pop open the door, step out, and you're back in the real world. So it's nice that we can control where we're at in there.
Now, I was looking at your website, really well done, by the way, and the frequently asked questions. And one of them is, well, what if I fall asleep? What happens?
Yeah, I'm notorious for falling asleep in the tank. I just, as soon as I get it, I think I've Pavlov dogged myself into being in the float tank and I just fall asleep. It would be impossible for you to roll over just like by yourself. I mean, you can if you try really hard to, but in a sleep, I think the worst that I've gotten in the float tank falling asleep is where you have those hypnagogic jerks where you kind of and it splashes the water and then you're kind of in a little bit of a wavy sensation, but that's about how far I've gotten with it. The main complaint for people is, you know, if they get the salt water in their eyes, which we have spray bottles and fresh water right there on hand to just wipe it off. But sleeping in the tank, one of the jokes that I've been making that isn't really a joke is that the only time that I'm going to have time to float once this gets going is going to be overnight. So if you come knock on the float center at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm probably going to be sleeping in there. So save me money on rent. So
Yeah. So how many of these suites will be located in your facility? Will be in
yeah,
your
so we're building out 4 private suites. We'll have 3 float rooms. We've got full rooms that you're stepping into with the water on the floor. So we are going to have 3 float rooms. One of the things that I'm really excited with, which isn't specifically for the people who are going through menopause, but we have 2 single float rooms, and then we have 1 double wide float room, so we can fit 2 people in. And the biggest focus for me on that is going to be people with accessibility issues. So you can go in
Oh, of
there with
course,
your
absolutely.
caregiver, or it's really, really beneficial for kids with autism, the sensory stimulation, and so being
Yeah.
able to remove them from that is super helpful. But it's also very weird to be going in there as a kid with autism. So you can go in there with your parent or your guardian or your caregiver, and so that I wanted to make sure that it was truly accessible for everyone. And even if you have mobility issues or anything like that, we can get you in there and get you feeling the benefits. So we'll have 3
Beautiful.
rooms, and then the secret one that we're the 4th suite eventually will be an infrared sauna and a cold plunge tub. I'm really excited for that one. I've started in the last
Me
year or
too.
two to really research the benefits of hot and cold therapy. And I think in the valley is
Sure.
missing out on that a little bit as well. So you can do a 45-minute session and get the infrared sauna. You can get the cold plunge in there and be in and out and bang before you go to work in the morning or on your lunch break, something like that.
Before you experienced your first float some years back, you must have had some sort of mental fortitude about wanting to pursue business and in wellness. Where did that come from?
I've been blessed with a very can do family. For us, it was never a question of, well, I don't think you should do that, or do you think that's a good idea? It was more, how do we do it? How would you solve that problem? So I learned that I'm able to really look at those problems and just break them down. That's basically it. And through I think the opposite, whatever the opposite of mental fortitude is, I think I've experienced a lot of that as well, where I took the easy way out, or I didn't give it my full effort, or
Mm.
kind of allowed those excuses to pile up and overwhelm me. I saw the effect that that had on me in terms of my ability to look at myself in the mirror in the morning, or do that, being able to tap and train that into me. I think that was the biggest thing for me, is that I realized I could do these different practices to get me into a state where that muscle is just that little bit easier to fire. The biggest example of that I have is I moved to Vancouver 5 years ago. I was the guy that you'd go to the bar any night of the week and you'd find me there, and
Mhm.
calling in late for work, and I just realized pretty quickly that that was not the way that I wanted to live my life. That wasn't how I saw all my friends getting old in the bar and all these people. And I just realized that something had to change. So I moved to Vancouver at 300 pounds, didn't have any friends. The job that I had lined up when I moved out went away with the day that I signed my lease. It was a really hard look in the mirror and face that for myself. And started going to the gym, and I'd get on the treadmill and I'd run for 2 minutes, and then I'd have to stop and take a break, and then just that showing up for myself every day, going
Yeah.
to the gym, and then you're running 10 minutes without taking a break, and then 15 minutes, and then you're running for an hour without taking a break, and then it's like, oh, maybe I'll sign up for a 10K. I lost 90 pounds when I moved out here within the first year that I lived out here. So
Unbelievable. Good. Good
seeing
stuff.
that really helped. So I think that if I was to give any advice or insight on my ability to train that muscle, is take that first step and just keep on putting that one foot in front of the other every time. It
Oh,
sounds so cliche, but it strengthens it. It's you're putting little building blocks on top of each other, and eventually you can step back and see the strong foundation that you've built for your life, and your ability to show up for myself and know that when I do something, I'm taking it on, and I'm putting that weight on my shoulders, and I know that I have the strength to do it. Or if I don't, I know that I also have fostered the relationships that I have in my life, that I can have some help carrying that load.
so beautiful. Wow. I loved what you just said. So many of us can relate. We all have that
Yeah.
journey, that walk to walk, right? One foot in front of the other.
And to me, it doesn't matter. everybody's story is different. Everybody's experience is different. The life that each of us have is so different, but there are
Hmm.
certain first principles that we can have in our lives that we abide by. And I think that it just really helps to push us forward. And even if your one step is smaller than my first step, or my first step is smaller than yours, that's still the first step. We've still got to, each of us still have to take that step. It's also very empowering. That was what I found with it, was that it was so empowering for me to go, oh, okay, that didn't kill me. It felt like it might have at some point, and but it didn't. And here I am, and I can still take it and learn the lessons from it, and have a little bit of levity with it, and move on and continue the
Yeah.
experience that we're so blessed to have here. I've really tapped into the ability to see the beauty in all of it, the pain and the suffering that everyone has to go through. I think that I think that's a necessary part of life, because that it keeps it exciting. It keeps us learning and growing, and it keeps us tapped into what's real and what's here. And I
Yeah.
think that's important.
So important. So beautifully said, Travis. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
So I
thank you
always
so
like
much
to
for having me.
Yeah. I always like to ask my guests what book they're reading. What is on your shelf or your bedside table these days, and why?
Yes, yes. So I'm reading a really tough book for me to read right now. It's called The Tibetan Book of the Dead, which sounds morbid, but it's ancient Eastern mysticism tied to the art of dying and living life in a way to help that transition. Part of my anxiety that I feel almost on a day-to-day basis is that existential anxiety of knowing that this beautiful experience has to come to an end at some point for all of us. That's the one commonality, and that's always filled me with fear. So this book is kind of testing me, but it's also helping me to see that as ancient, the art of dying is ancient. It's something that we've been dealing with for centuries. So that's been a tough one that I've been reading right now. That's been really interesting, and the reason that I bring it up as opposed to some of the more fun and nice books that I've been reading is that I think facing that is important. I think for me, I know what my fears are. And so to be able to face that and take them on and learn more about them and shed a little bit more light on them takes away that sting a little bit. But the other book that I would absolutely recommend is the Book of Floating. It gives
Yeah, of course.
everybody a good breakdown of all the benefits and really explains the benefits of it. I've actually just got back into reading. I took a lot of time off of reading and have started to get back into it. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're not busy building your dreams and following your
Yeah,
purpose and your passion, of course, because that's time
exactly.
consuming, but just carve out
Yeah.
that time for reading. Because in that in its sense is a meditative state too.
Exactly. Being able to, and I also recently read The Alchemist, which is a fun,
So good.
it was the first time I read it. I heard about it in everybody's reading lists and finally got to it. And even those more fantasy driven or fictionalized books are a good escape, a good way to get your imagination going and get a little bit less of that screen time that we're all so
For sure.
inundated by for our entire life.
Very true.
Reading is a wonderful tool for meditation.
Yes. Oh, yes. There's so many pieces we take away from it. But don't read your book in the float tank, the float room.
No, no, no. But we another a cool side of it is there is an intercom system or a sound system in the tank as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I would like to get into adding guided meditations when people are in
Awesome.
there, or frequency work, or if you want to listen to Metallica while you're in there, you absolutely can. I don't know why anyone would want to, but yeah, being able
Counterintuitive,
to,
but
yeah, exactly. But
it's
yeah,
hard.
don't take the book in there.
Oh my goodness, Travis, this has been so much fun. Well, I'll get you back when you get that cold dunk tank going, and we
Yes.
can maybe
Yeah.
talk some more. But I am
Yes.
so excited for you. I'm excited for your journey to see when this takes off, the grand opening, the data that you're going to be collecting, and those testimonials. It's going to be so great. And in my show notes, we'll continue to update the information with your website and then even more information about those membership prices that you'll be offering
we're not open yet, but packages are available for purchase. So if you go to the website, you can make the purchases on the packages. They make really, really great Christmas gifts, being able to give the gift of that to people, but also, as we touched on as well, the data that we're trying to collect and try and guide this towards a more recognized practice to offer your listeners. I'll share a discount code. And if you guys use the discount code from this podcast, you'll get a discounted membership. And then I'd love to connect with everybody on what benefits they find from it, and even the bad stuff. I want to take the bad stuff too. If you don't have a good experience in there, I want to know about why and just try and make this better for everybody. And I'm excited to learn more about how this can positively benefit women with menopause. I think it's a huge thing that gets overlooked. And actually, one of the tank manufacturer that I've been working really closely with, she has just gone through menopause, and she was really excited that I was coming on this podcast and that we were taking care of that side of it. So I'm just excited to see what people think and what benefits people get from it. So very excited.
Wonderful. Yes, where I'll be sending my clients
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so excited. Yeah, to partner with you and continue this journey with the whole community.
That's right. Yeah. So for our listeners that are out there worldwide, I have listeners that check in from all sorts of locations: Australia, Norway, Costa Rica.
Amazing.
They'll just have to come to the Comox Valley.
Absolutely. Yes.
Take a float, take a dump.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get them in. We're close to an airport, so that airport makes it pretty easy to get here.
There you go. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I can see a really big partnership collaboration here with all of our businesses.
I can't wait. I'm so excited to be part of the small business community and the wellness community in the Valley. It's a cool place to be.
It sure is. I can't wait to try it out and see where this takes you, and have our listeners listen to those show notes for those links where they can get a package and follow on your journey. So
absolutely. Send messages, send emails, any questions that anybody has, reach out. I love talking about floating. So if you've got the time, I've got the wind for it.
Write your own book now. There you go.
Wow, Travis exudes enthusiasm. And if that isn't the perfect pitch to get you to try floating, then I don't think anything can, except maybe your own fears. And that's the whole point. Get out of your head and into your body. Go try a float. Lose yourself to the serenity of the magnificent benefits of magnesium sulfate and sensory deprivation. I know I will. But for the many listeners who don't reside here on Vancouver Island, let this episode be an invitation to go find a float center in your local community. Better yet, hop on a plane and come pay us a visit. And no, this episode is not sponsored by WestJet or Tourism BC. But I do have a little something to promote Flow State Float House. Are you looking for that perfect gift for a loved one? And that includes you too. For those who do reside here in the local area, in advance of his grand opening, Travis is offering listeners of this episode a special discount code, AMT20, Alpha Mike Tango 20. Go use that code on checkout to get 20% off a package or a membership. Thank you for joining. Do you need support through your menopause transition? A menopause doula can help. You can find me at mlcoaching.com. And help me help you by filling out a simple survey, which is linked in the show notes. Your input is greatly valued and will help in the design and creation of tools, courses, and other resources for my upcoming one-on-one and group coaching programs. Take the survey, it's linked in the show notes. Like, follow, share, subscribe. And if you are enjoying this podcast, I would love to hear from you. Consider leaving a review. Spreading the word will help broaden my audience reach and further impact more women as they experience a transition.